Hello, friends. It is Friday, April 2nd, 2021, Good Friday. And I wanted to just send a message out for today, thinking about that fact. Today is this incredibly somber day that we celebrate in the church year that focuses on Jesus' crucifixion. And again, such a strange name to call this day good when we think of such a horrible event that took place. And yet, the reason we do that, obviously, is because it's such good news for us that Jesus' sacrifice was for us and set us free from our sin. And so that is why we call it Good Friday. But I think it's so important to just reflect on what this day means and what Jesus went through for us. It's interesting. I think for like many of you, celebrated a lot of Good Fridays in my life, and I think from year to year, sometimes the account of the crucifixion impacts me in a powerful, profound way. Other times, not as much. And those moments, I think, or those years, I think I know I feel a little guilty. Like, why isn't this impacting me more? I always find it striking, but I think there are just those times where it becomes, and I hate to even say it, it kind of becomes rote. We've done it so many times. We've um, gone through so many Good Friday services that we're just almost immune to the impact that it has on us, that it should have on us. And so perhaps you found that as well at times. Last year, obviously, we were celebrating Good Friday from home, remembering Good Friday. I shouldn't even say celebrating, remembering Good Friday from home, and who knows? Perhaps for some of you, that was one of those years of great impact where it was different. And sometimes different is good because it forces us to see things in a new light, a different light. It gives us a different vantage point. So perhaps that was the case for some of you last year. This year, tonight, we will be gathered in person for those who are comfortable coming. For those who aren't and prefer to worship from home, definitely respect that decision. And again, we're thankful that we can stream out the service and you can still engage with it in that way. Perhaps this will be a year, whether you're there in person, maybe that will make it have a greater impact after a year away, or if once again you're engaging from home, maybe this can be a year where again it's different, so maybe it strikes you in a new way. I'm really looking forward to preaching tonight and helping us think through what that whole experience would have been like for Jesus and the impact it has for us, the significance it has for us. But today, I just before coming on here, I was doing a little reading about crucifixion, and I've done some of that before, but I mean, when you actually read what that experience would have been like for Jesus, I mean, it caused me to get choked up because it's just such a horrific way to die. That it's not just from kind of bleeding out, but it's from ultimately suffocation, asphyxiation. You can't catch your breath, organ failure as well. Just a horrible, horrible way to die. And to think that anyone would be put through that kind of a death, even the worst people, okay, I still wouldn't want that for them. I mean, it just such an inhumane thing to happen to a human being. It just speaks to the cruelty of the Romans that they put people through, that was a form of execution for them, as it remains for some still today. But it's just so horrific. And to think, like I say, not that anyone would go through that, but that Jesus went through that God would become human and endure that for us is so striking. And especially when you think of Jesus and the only perfect person who ever lived, without sin, without spot, without blemish, the least deserving person to ever experience something like that, and yet he did it, and he went through it for us, is so amazing. And so I'm not necessarily recommending go read up on crucifixion because it's pretty grisly. Definitely don't share it with your kids or grandkids, if they're young, because it's too much for sure. I think it's important to talk about how Jesus died on the cross, but the details are really too extreme and gruesome to think through. But I think for us, at times it's important to do that because that, I think, makes it have a greater impact. I remember when I first watched The Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson's film, went and saw it in the theater a couple times, and one time took some of the youth from the youth group I was leading. I think the first time I saw it, and then the second time I went with my sisters. Actually, I think those were flipped. I think I wanted to preview it first before taking any youth, but it was older youth that we took with parent permission and all that, because it's gruesome if you've seen it. But I remember watching it with my sisters, and I remember coming home, and we lived in an apartment complex, and we were going up the elevator back to our apartment, and I remember just breaking down because seeing it, a visual representation of what I've read and heard so many times, struck me in such a powerful way. Again, when you think about our senses, right? I had heard the words, I had spoken the words as I read it, but seeing it with my eyes, and I think seeing things, that visual sense is so powerful. It just struck me. And again, I know there's criticisms of how gruesome and brutal the film was, and yet when you read the account and when you hear of in Isaiah, him saying, like Pastor Dave said last night, that Jesus would be marred beyond recognition as even being a human being. I mean, the beating that he took and then the fall by the crucifixion was horrific. And so seeing that struck me so profoundly, just what Jesus endured for me. And that's how I took it, right? When I saw it that time was, it wasn't just Jesus died for all, which he did, but it really struck me. Jesus died for me, that it was my sin that put him on that cross, that it was your sin that put him on that cross. And I think when we personalize that, as hard as it is to do, and as uncomfortable as that is to do, it makes it so much more meaningful what he went through for you, for me, and just reveals his great love for us. So, like I said, more to come tonight in my message, but I just wanted to share those thoughts, and I hope and pray that this Good Friday can strike you in a fresh way. Even if you've heard this account throughout your whole life, that maybe today, on this Good Friday here in 2021, as we're still emerging from this pandemic and with all the challenges of this past year, which has really forced us, I think, to look inward a lot, do a lot of self-reflection and what kind of people have we been, and how can we be better human beings, and all those kinds of things. And what have we taken for granted? How have we taken God for granted? I think with all of that in the mix, we come to Good Friday and we look upon the cross of Christ. And like Paul said, I want to know nothing but Jesus Christ and him crucified. Right? This is where we look to see our salvation, and it reveals the truth about us, that we are sinners, that we put Jesus on that cross, but it especially reveals the truth about God, that he loves us so much that he would go through that for us to set us free from sin so we could live with him forever. So it's striking, and I just hope and pray that this Good Friday strikes you in a fresh way. And I just encourage you to spend some time throughout this day, if you have the time, doing some reflecting and do some reading through those scriptures. Like I say, if you have the stomach for it, reading through some about crucifixion or whatever it takes for you to just let this be real and let the impact of it be open to the impact that it could have on you today. And maybe this will be a Good Friday that strikes us in a fresh way and causes us to truly live differently, to truly live for Jesus and give him our whole heart. That's my prayer for myself, and I pray that for each one of you. So God bless you, friends. Look forward to connecting with you one way or another tonight for our Good Friday service at 7 p.m., which will also be live streamed. And then again, coming back on Sunday for our Easter Sunday services, 8:30 and 11, or live streamed, and celebrating the glorious resurrection. So God bless you, friends.